And welcome back to Bayou Time. Martin Falls here with the Superintendent of Terrebonne Parish Schools, Mr. Philip Martin. Philip, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Martin, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know, as me and you have talked throughout the years, we all learn new things. I guess Hurricane Ida has taught us that even with the superintendent, you know, when people get interviewed to be superintendent like yourself, I'm sure most of the questions deal with curriculum and what are your views on education and everything else. But they're going to probably add a whole handbook on how would you handle a hurricane like Hurricane Ida. It really has just changed the way everybody thinks. And it's really sort of pulled you away from anything having to do with curriculum and everything else. I know you're still in charge of it, but whew, can we get a few years under our belt without another one like this?
Yeah, Martin, that's a very profound observation and a very accurate one. Superintendents are supposed to be the instructional educational leader of the district, and we still are, but sometimes there are things that get in our path that change that direction, that dynamic a little bit. And obviously Hurricane Ida was one of those game changers that was I've lived here since I've been in high school, and we've all been through hurricanes. This was by far the most profound and dramatic from my experience and in our community. It was certainly a game changer.
Well, I think it was the most profound and catastrophic of everybody's career. I mean, there's no doubt. I've seen quite a few come through, and I was a young child when Betsy roared through, but all the pine trees that everybody planted after Betsy came crashing down for Ida. So
that's very true.
My number one advice when people ask me moving forward is don't plant pine trees. We don't need them by houses or any place, you know. And basically, don't plant big water oaks by your house either.
That's also very true.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, it changes your whole outlook on things. Damage across the parish, some worse than others. Schools having to shift gears and go have school at other schools. But with that said, as we're moving forward, we're starting to catch our breath with activities that will at least get people back in the right direction. Can you bring us up to speed, especially South Terrebonne and Ellender? What's happening there?
They are I guess there's good news, bad news with every story. The bad news is they're sharing a school. Good news is full slate of activities. We haven't curtailed any of the athletic activities. And actually, Ellender's girls just won a state championship, as you and I were talking about prior to this just coming on. And all four of the high schools programs, they had successful seasons. So we were very hopeful. I think it gave kids and parents somewhat of a relief from many of them situations. They're living in campers in their driveway, COVID. You know, there's a lot of stressors that our community has been under, but the kids have done well, you know, and their parents have done well. Has it been a struggle and a strain on many people? No question. But we're having kids in school every day, and they're doing athletics and winning state championships. And South Terrebonne soccer team had a really excellent season, and their basketball team. So from the activities kids are doing, I think that was a good break from the stress that them and their families have been under, and we're glad to do that. South Terrebonne and Ellender have lots of damage. You know, that's probably not a very scientific or an engineering term, but if you can see a picture there of Ellender, the whole back corner of the auditorium is gone, and the inside of the building was just completely, whole walls blew out, and that blew out other walls, and it's like, you can see when you have one structural failure, how it's a domino effect. That leads to something else, and that leads to something else, and that leads to something else. You know, we witnessed that in our schools. We have architects assigned to every school that has damage. And we have two project managers, two nationally known project managers. And we had so much damage, it was suggested that we divide those projects in half. One project manager has half, the other project manager has another half. The procedural, and at ST at Eleanor, I'd want to add, you probably have noticed that there was a lot of dirt work being done in the front yard of ST and mostly in the backyard of Ellender. You can see there, it's on the screen, that's where a portable temporary campus is going to be with modular buildings. Each one of those projects was a multi-million-dollar project, each one. They're temporary until we can get the schools repaired / or replaced. The amount of dirt work and the amount of gravel went in there was, the amount of dirt that they removed from there was kind of mind-boggling. If you look next to South Terrebonne, the property we're on right to the left of the school, there's this huge mound of dirt. That's dirt that was removed so the the sand and the rocks can go in, of which that's where they're going to have the modular buildings.
I guess if we're going to talk about Monday morning quarterbacking, we get it at HTV2 and social media.
Sure.
Everybody's an anchor and everybody's a weather person and everybody's a superintendent. And look, I don't mean any ill will towards comment. Sometimes they're well directed, but sometimes people come out of left field with things.
Sure.
One of the biggest criticisms we would hear was that, you know, some families lost their homes, but they're still required to go to school. But just me witnessing some of the state championship team from Eleanor who lost their school, had COVID, had all kind of things that could go wrong, managed somehow, and there you see highlights of it, to win a state championship. And this moment for these girls right now, to me, I look at it a different way. I'm going, okay, yeah, a lot of these girls may have lost everything, but look at the way they are celebrating a victory. So even if their life is not normal, that was pretty normal to them.
Yeah, Martin, that's very, very well put. We felt early on that it was crucial to get kids back in school and get some type of routine. Maybe not the same routine for all kids, but get kids back in school. Not having school was just not an option. We felt it was one of the first signals that our community was healing when kids are going to school every day. And we did that, not without some bumps and bruises along the way, obviously, and a lot of Band-Aids at many schools. But as you pointed out, you know, Eleanor did well at basketball, and all our teams did well, and all their post-idle, you know, sports did well. South Terrebonne, for example, the football field, you know, we were very proud of the artificial turf field. They're both at ST and at Terrebonne High. And we just recently had that. We thought we'd be able to use the athletic facilities you can see on the screen there. We had to go and suck up all of the, many people may not know this, but the green stuff you see is only cosmetics. It doesn't do anything. It's little tiny pebbles, black rubberized pebbles that makes the surface soft. And you can see on TV when it sprays out.
Yeah.
Well, little did we know that when all the lights at South Terrebonne blew out around the stadium, they shattered. And we're walking on the football field and say, oh, look at that piece of glass. Oh, wait, there's a piece of glass over here. Oh, wait, there's glass everywhere. So that required that all the pebbles had to be vacuumed up and redistributed, which was a $200,000 job, by the way.
Because that could gash somebody pretty good.
Oh,
glass.
yeah, once we saw glass, there was no like, let's everybody get in and walk around and hope we find it all. Because that could have a very bad, you know, effect on a kid who would happen to fall on that.
Right.
So that's just one of the little small things that, and you know, that connected to this of the thousands of things that have to be done. But we're thankful at ST that field will be usable next year. We will be able to use the swamp, and Ellender and South Terrebonne have always shared that field, and they'll be able to do so next year. So we're moving back toward getting some normalcy, and they're showing lights. We had to change all the lights on all the poles. And just like mom and dad and homeowners, finding contractors is a challenge. Finding competent, qualified people with proper credentials and insurance is a challenge.
And I'm sure the contractors you've been leaning on for years, they're trying to find employees.
Well, and that's their problem, employees and like the light fixtures. You got to back order them and wait for they come in on some slow boat from somewhere
That's right.
until
The
they get
supply
it.
line is just
The supply
dead.
line, so all of that, we're bogged down with that as well, with supplies and our contractors are having the same issues that we hear from everybody else, finding workers and, but we're making progress, and I do not want to act like that everything is stopped. It has not. What most people don't realize is that to do a public works project, it's a lot of things you don't see have to take place. Preparing the bid specs, for say a school such as Ellender, the architect can't just go out there and say, give us a contract to fix the school.
Right.
Has to itemize every single thing that has to be repaired, and then put that in bid specs. Then it has to be bid on, and all that stuff is very time consuming, unfortunately. But we're doing that, and that's the phase we're in now, and that's taking place. At many schools, we focused on the ones that are most severely damaged, but all the schools, like Evergreen has a wing that can't be used. By and Black has the cafeteria that can't be used. Mulberry has a large portion of the school that can't be used. Berg has the whole modular building that can't be used.
And Mulberry was in y'all were right in the middle of building.
Building in addition
Yeah,
to it, yes,
in
that is
addition.
correct.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
I mean, wow. It's just, but it is progress. You see the new with the old, and I pass Mulberry every day because I live right behind it. But
Sure.
You see them making progress, and sort of gives you hope for the future.
Well, that's, there is hope, and I want our community to know that these buildings will all be fixed. In the aftermath of Ida, when we were meeting with the contractors and architects and structural engineers, my first question was, when can we open? Eventually, I gave them a deadline by September 21st. All schools that had electricity, they were not profoundly damaged, would open, and we did. Speaking of ST, Ellender, Grand Caillou Elementary, and Upper Little Caillou, first addressing the two high schools, I said, what do we got to do to have these operational by the start of next school year? Everyone in the room said, it won't happen next school year under ideal situation. It won't happen the year after that under ideal situations. That's when we realized we have to get portable campuses because we can't stay in a platooning mode for 2 or 3 years. So that was an eye-opener for me as to the magnitude of the
How
damage.
did y'all fund that, by the way? Because that's extra cost.
Well, we borrowed $200 million, and we're anticipating that won't be enough to do all the cost. And actually, it's kind of like a line of credit, quite honestly, is that you spend it as you need it. They don't put $200 million in the bank, but as we incur costs related to Ida, and our school system was in good financial shape, but no one can absorb $200 million.
Did insurance pick up a lot?
Insurance picked up not a lot. FEMA is going to pick up 90% of that.
Okay.
Well, that's our desire and goal, for that to happen. That's the plan.
And I would think that FEMA, because we do hear horror stories, but I think the elected officials who can lean on FEMA would understand that to lose a public school system in Terrebonne Parish because of a lack of effort on their part would be catastrophic.
Yes, and I have to say FEMA has been very, very helpful, going out of their way to assist. They haven't written any checks yet, but we were not anticipating it. That's down the road a ways. But yes, the FEMA is going to be a major player for us. We were, as a school system, by far the most profoundly impacted from a facility standpoint.
And I would say if you took hurricanes from across, wherever hurricanes are dominant over the year, people would understand that Terrebonne Parish took as major a hit in a hurricane as any school system.
Without a doubt.
Ever in the history of hurricanes.
Without a doubt. That is a very factual, accurate statement, without a doubt.
So as you, in the last 3 minutes of this, I know you'd announced your retirement before all this, and you're having to juggle all this while thinking of, hey, all right, I spent all this time in the school system, and I'm gonna get to go enjoy my life. But these last 2 years with COVID and hurricanes, I gotta be honest, have probably been hell on you, haven't they?
Well, I wouldn't wish it on anyone or any superintendent.
Right.
It has certainly been challenging, to say the least. But we are, and as you and I discussed earlier, we're knocking on this fake wood. COVID,
There's real wood underneath.
we're real wood underneath. That COVID, certainly in the school system, appears to be very, very minimal right now.
Right.
Thank the good Lord.
Yeah.
But for a while, remember it's COVID-19, so we've been dealing with it since 19.
Right.
It was very worrisome. People were dying with it. I mean, I don't know how you get something more serious than that. And then right when COVID starts to kind of die down, along comes Ida, and here's another crisis.
Right. So when you start juggling things, and I remember telling some of my family members one time when my grandparents or whatever were close to death, they looked so relaxed. And they would go, "Why are they so relaxed?" I said, well, one, faith, and two, they're tired. So when you get close to retirement, the things that you have to do, and any superintendent that's coming up, the next person that'll take your place, the one after that that'll take the next
Without a
person's
doubt.
place. There's a lot of demand on officials that run schools and run offices and all that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a high demand, but at the end, you try to get what you can get done, and then you ride off in the sunset, and then somebody else got to come up and learn from what you just went through.
Yeah, and some things there was a playbook, and some things was not a playbook. There was no playbook for COVID, and there was no playbook for Hurricane Ida.
Right. So you inherited two things, in a large career and a long career, and I'm sure as that time comes by, we're going to have you on the news desk and talk more about it won't be all COVID and won't be all Hurricane Ida. There's a lot of great things that happened on that route, but all in all, just to let the people, a little recap, know, we do see sunlight coming up in the morning.
Absolutely, and that's going to continue. We're committed to that. The entire school system, beginning with the school board on down, that's our number one. Open our eyes every morning. What can we get done today, and how can we speed it up and get it done faster?
And part of your job, with a minute left, in clearing out the way for a new superintendent will be to have someone come in and not have to worry so much about where they put in these portable buildings, but maybe what schools are making A's and B's.
Well, that's what we should be doing all along. Unfortunately,
Right.
we've had to kind of deviate that a little bit, but we will get back to that. There's no question.
All right, I appreciate you coming in and talking about some of the, events and happenings at some of the schools, and promise you we're going to have you on for an extended version as we get closer to June. But thank you so much, and keep it going, keep the ball rolling, and let's keep these kids in mind. And after all, kids are number one priority.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Martin.
All right. Once again, Philip Martin, the superintendent of Terrebonne Parish Schools. A lot to talk about. We'll have Philip on in the upcoming weeks to recap his career and talk about a lot of things. We'll be right back.